Hello, this is James Himm Mitchell, and I'm back here doing another variation of a Lenormand reading that I did in a previous video, which I'll put a link to in the comment section or the description box below. And in that video, I was asking the question about doing more Lenormand videos for my YouTube channel, because I was at a space where I was kind of wanting to gain some more experience using the Lenormand other than doing my personal draws, because I haven't been reading Lenormand all that long. I've only been reading the Lenormand since the end of last year, so about December, like a little bit before Christmas. And right now, the bulk of my work and study with the Lenormand is just basically by doing my own personal readings and daily draws. And I did post a few videos for some soap opera characters just to see kind of where their storylines were going. So I'll also post those links if you're interested in seeing those in the description box below as well. In my previous video I did answering that question, like what do I need to know about creating more Lenormand videos for my YouTube channel. My typical way of doing it is using a line of 5, and I usually cut the deck and then fan it out and pick 5 cards at random. There is another technique that I'm going to show you with this. So this is kind of like an alt version of that same question and reading. So what you do is you take the deck, and let me mention now that I'm using my own personal deck, which is the Under the Roses Lenormand. It's by Kendra Hurteau and Katrina Hill. And the reason why I love this deck, it was my first Lenormand deck. And the reason why it was my first is because Kendra and Katrina, for the man, the lady, and the child cards, they have 2 different sets. They have the European, which you see on the box here with the man and the woman on the box. That's a European version. But they also have an African version. So there's an African gentleman, there's an African lady, and then there's an African child. And so I was so in love with the idea of having different ethnicities represented in Lenormand that was why it became my first deck. And as an African American card reader, it's nice to see cards that represent you or can be a reflection of you. So that's why, and I absolutely love the version of the gentleman. And so that's a nice segue for me to kind of talk about this alternative version that I do. So, you know, it's nice when you can do a random way of letting the deck pick the focus card, and when I do a line of 5, the focus card is central. So sometimes what I do is I also look for the card that represents me, which is the gentleman in this case, and then look to see what the cards are before it and what cards are after it. So since this is going to be a line of 5, I'm going to go through the deck, and basically all you do is you just take the deck in hand and you kind of go through the cards until you come to the card that you want to be the topic card. So there's my gentleman card, and I love him, so you can see that's him. So he's the focus. Since I'm asking about me, so he's the focus. So what I do is I take the 2 cards that came before. So we have those 2 cards, and I want to make sure I get them in the shot well. And then you want to take the 2 cards that came after it. And there you have your line of 5. And this is an alternative way. You get to choose what the focus card is. So, for instance, if you wanted to know about love and you wanted to use this method, then you would look for the cards that are coming before the heart and the cards that are coming after it. If you wanted to know about work, there are a couple of work cards. There, you could use the anchor. You could use, if you're an employee, you could use the fox. If you're a manager, you can use the bear. And you could, again, go with the, look through the deck, pick the 2 cards that come before it, then your topic card, and then the 2 cards that come after it, and that becomes your line. So that's just the way. So I always, when my card doesn't show up in a reading, sometimes I'm curious to see what cards would surround it. So that's what I did with here. So again, keeping with the question, my first thought was, as I'm looking at the cards, they're all very positive cards. So we have the fish, the sun, my card, the gentleman, the clover, and the ship. All very positive cards. So that's a very nice indication. And so basically I'll do what I did in the previous video, and I'll do the pairs, and so I start by reading the pairs, the first pair, which is the cards that are flanking the gentleman. So here we have the Sun and the Clover. The Sun is actually a really good card in the deck. It represents illumination, it represents happiness, it represents luck with life. It's just a really positive card. Positive, I said positive, so it represents positive energy as well. It can represent success. That's the basic meaning of it. Success and also confidence. So one of the things I'm looking at with the Sun card is a way for me to build my confidence up as a reader by entertaining the idea of making more of these videos. And then the Clover on the opposite side. The Clover is representative of luck, fortune. It usually represents an opportunity. So it could be, looking at the pair could be an opportunity to build confidence or to become more confident in my reading ability. It could be an opportunity for success, that kind of thing. So I'm looking at that. So those are two very positive cards right there. So then the next thing I do is I look at the pair on the outside, and so here we have the fish and here we have the ship. Now this is very interesting because the ship typically can represent money or resources. So it can also represent wealth or abundance or prosperity. It can also represent something that's being circulated because it represents circulation, or something that's in flow. On the other side here with the ship typically can represent travel. It can represent something foreign because it usually typically represents travel overseas, so there's a foreign aspect to that. But for me, it can also represent transportation. The ship being a vehicle, since we live in more modern times, it can represent all methods or modes of transport. So it can also symbolically represent a journey. So when I look at it as a symbolic representation of my journey as a card reader, then I go with the aspect of it meaning progression, advancement, and moving forward. So this is a nice card to have because it just represents my progression as a reader. So I'm reading the pair as, I'm not going to read the fish as money, so I'm going to go with the wealth aspect of it. So I would look at this as, a wealth of progression, saying like there's going to be a great deal of advancement moving forward, things of that nature. With the more consistency or the more regularity I make these kinds of videos. So I'm seeing that as this pair. Then, as I do normally or in other videos as I've done, I'll take the first two cards. They represent a pair. So we have the fish and the sun. So for me, I'm seeing this as a wealth of confidence because the gentleman, if you notice, he's got his back turned to this, so this is some aspect of the past or something that has already happened because he's not facing it. So this could be like a wealth of confidence, the idea of it being something that's going to build confidence. So I'm going with that aspect of it, and not necessarily the fish as being something, a money-making venture. So I'm seeing that. And then the gentleman is facing these cards. So this is really what it's saying, that the direction he's looking in or what he's focusing on, because his eyes are looking this way. So the Clover and the ship represent the other pair. And so I would look at this as an opportunity for advancement. So the gentleman, which is me, so these three cards would read as the man sees an opportunity for progression or advancement or moving forward. So that's how I read these. So that's really the focus of it. So that's how I really do see it that way, because I've said in previous videos, or especially in the previous video that I made, that I was looking at this as a way to further my skill. So those are the cards here. And so what I do then is I look for the hidden dynamic, and if you have regularly followed these videos that I've done, it starts with taking the pips, which are the playing card inserts, which are here in the corners, and you add the number value of those. So we have a king. King is 13. And then over here on the other side, we have a 10. So 13 and 10 is 23. So this is very interesting when I think about this, because the 23rd card in the deck is the mice. And so the mice is typically a challenging card because it represents, here it is, it represents stress and worry and something that's eating away at you. It can represent a gradual loss, so some sort of erosion or decay. So in the challenging sense, it could be about my stress or worry, about my level of ability, in terms of being a card reader, you know, well, especially Lenormand. I mean, I've been reading tarot for 17 years, so it's not about that. But with Lenormand, since this is the topic, it would be my stress or worry about my level of ability. Since, like I said, I've only been reading for now, you know, 8 months. So that, and letting that, you know, so that's the negative aspect of it, is about the stress and the worry. But the positive thing is about letting that kind of just gradually go away, gradually work itself out, you know, seeing that on the decline. The more videos that I do, you know, the more that will decline. So that's, I could look at that, you know, two ways. Then you take the inner pips, which would be ace is 1, and then the 6 of diamonds is 6, so 1 and 6 is 7. And interesting, that's another challenging card. And the 7th card in the deck is the snake. And so the snake can represent some sort of complication or something that's complex. It can usually represent some form of trouble. So for me, I would look at this and say that, you know, the Lenormand process could be viewed by some viewers who look at it as maybe a complicated or a complex process, you know. So there's that aspect of it. The other thing about the snake can represent, you know, jealousy or envy. So it could be, you know, one of the things I may have to kind of not get myself worked up and stressed out over, are maybe watching some other people's videos that are Lenormand readers and not getting, you know, jealous or envious about their level of skill or expertise, or, you know, how they present whatever it is that they do and how they do it. You know, so it's kind of like, I'm looking at these two cards, it's like things that I would have to be on guard for and keep a watch on. You know, everybody progresses in their own way. I'm keeping with the ship. You know, everybody progresses in their own way, and there's no right or wrong. It's just about, you know, however you move through that. And as I'm saying that, I also realize that the snake can be something that is a winding process. It's not like a straight line. Have you ever seen those drawings where they talk about success? And so, since the sun card is here, it made me think of that. So in the first caption or the first picture, you know, it's the people who believe that success is a straight line, and so it's like what people think success is, and it's like a linear thing. And then in the next picture they show the same line, but it's all jumbled up. It's all tangled up, and that's really what success is. Success is not a linear point A to point B kind of process. It's very winding, it's very entangled, you know, that kind of thing. So that makes me think of the snake, that, you know, this is going to be a winding process. So I'm going that with the snake. Then the other thing I do is I take all the pips and then I add them together. So we have 13 and 1, which is 14. The gentleman is ace of hearts, so that's another 1. So 14 and 1 is 15. Then we have 15 and 6 is 21. And then we have, with the ship card, which is 10, then we have 31. Right, 31. So 31 in the Lenormand deck is the sun card. So it's very nice when I can see the card in the line as well. So the 31st card is the sun. So going again, like, the more I do it, this is something that's going to help build my confidence. It's something that's going to be very positive, and something that could be, you know, as time goes on, maybe something very, very successful. And, you know, successful is a relative thing, so, you know, it just depends on whatever success is for me in this regard. But it could be something that's very successful, but very encouraging cards. So this is just another alternative version to doing a line of 5. You know, in the previous video, like I said, which will be in the description box below, you can let the deck pick the focus card. But if you know for sure what your topic is and you want to pick it yourself, then the other way is to just go through the deck, look for your topic card, pick the 2 cards that come before it, and the 2 cards that come after it. So, again, this is James and Mitchell, and if you enjoyed this video, if you found it very helpful, very enlightening, just kind of let me know. You could leave a comment, that would be great. If you want to see more of these types of videos, let me know that too. If there is a particular type of Lenormand video you want to see, other than a reading, maybe something instructional, you know, you're having issues with a certain type of spread or layout, and I may know it, let me know that too, and I could kind of maybe create a video just that would answer that question for you. Because in my previous video I said that there where spade card shows up, and spades represent service, so the universe is kind of looking at this as, for me, providing some form of service. And that only will be helpful if I actually know what it is that people might need. So if there is a particular need you have regarding Lenormand, let me know that too. Again, this is James Himm Mitchell, and I look forward to sharing this space here again with you in the next video. And until then, take care.